I will never serve Ares again!
You will return.
Alecto has destroyed the only path that leads to the lantern.
Death first!
This time, you will fail. What have you done?
You will never reach the eyes now that my mothers know you are after them.
Find them.
This power helped me escape Hecatoncheires.
And what will happen to you?
If you do not succeed, my fate is sealed regardless.
You will never reach the lantern, Spartan!
Before I could have told you how to get to it, but now you will need to find a new way.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to more Let's Play God of War Ascension. This is it. This is the big, mega-sized episode. Hour and 8 minutes long. First thing we're going to do is we're going to upgrade the Oath Stone of Orcos. Wanted to make sure I had more than enough red orbs for that in the previous episodes. Because the Oath Stone of Orcos makes this game not easy, but manageable, even in Titan mode. And you'll see that in action soon enough. But yes, this is the big, mega-sized episode of God of War Ascension. This is going to be over an hour long. I hope you're ready. Just sit back and listen to me ramble on in my dulcet tones. Those nice dulcet tones of mine. Get a little tutorial here for how to use the Oath Stone of Orcos. There'll be plenty of puzzles where we have to use it from here on out. And here we enter chapter 21. The forearm of Apollo, and the big stretch of the game, by the way, here is another artifact. The big stretch of the game where we explore the statue of Apollo to its absolute fullest. Here we have another white chest and some red orb chests, but first, real important, this is where I do the calculations for how you get less red orbs in Titan mode as compared to lower difficulties. So here I'm breaking chests in lower difficulties, and those were my starting orbs in the lower difficulties, and how much I got from the red orb chests. Overall, you get more red orbs in lower difficulties, as you just saw there. This makes Titan mode the only difficulty where Kratos is not able to upgrade all of his gear in one playthrough. Ascension is rare in that it is one of the only God of War games where you are able to upgrade all of your gear in one playthrough. Most God of War games don't give you that ability. The two PSP God of War games, Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta, do give you that opportunity, but God of War 2, God of War 3 doesn't give you that opportunity really, so Ascension is the only kind of mainline game that doesn't give you that opportunity, but it's a spin-off. It's the first spin-off that doesn't give you that opportunity in the higher difficulties. In the higher difficulties, you just have to, you gotta deal with it. By the way, during this little fight here, this is an infinite spawn point, because until you use the Oath Stone of Orcos, these satyrs spawn forever, so you can use that to freeze enemies and get yourself infinite red orbs that way. You can also easily grab a club here and knock satyrs off the arena with it, and thus getting you the Swinger Trophy. So that's an easy way to get the Swinger Trophy in Chapter 21 if you were wondering how to do that. This fight teaches you how to use the Oath Stone of Orcos in combat, and as you're going to see throughout the rest of this game, the Oath Stone of Orcos is stupid powerful. It is way more powerful than you think it is. It does so much damage. It breaks through the armor that satyrs sometimes carry. It does huge damage to juggernauts and other big enemies like Cerberuses and centaurs and stuff like that. Oath Stone of Orcos is a game changer for this whole portion of the game here. The Oath Stone of Orcos makes this game manageable at last. So enjoy, because it's about time that we had something to make this whole experience more manageable. Now, I believe in New Game Plus, you don't actually start off with all of your gear, so you don't get to use the Oath Stone of Orcos throughout the entire game, like I'm sure you'd probably expect from something like New Game Plus. In fact, I'm pretty sure you don't. I'm pretty sure in New Game Plus you just start, and we'll talk about this in the extras. In New Game Plus, you do just start with all of your elements, however leveled up they are. and once you get the Amulet of Ouroboros, then it's already upgraded to whatever it is, and after you get the Oathstone of Orcos, then that's already upgraded to where it is. Yeah, so unfortunately, you only really get to play with the Oathstone of Orcos during this segment of the game, during your Ascent throughout the Statue of Apollo. But, you know, make the most of it, because this Ascent is pretty difficult. Lots of enemies thrown at you, a lot more mythical creatures thrown at you than normal. Usually it's just satyrs. Now we're really going to get into being thrown a whole bunch of other different kinds of enemies and start doing more and more puzzles. This is the longest stretch of the game where, you know, just like the original God of War, not a lot of cutscenes, not a lot of talking, just a lot of exploration and a lot of combat. This whole segment of the game, this whole climbing up the Statue of Apollo, really does invoke the feel of the original God of War and Kratos' explorations of the Temple of Pandora. Yeah, you got to make sure you're at the very end of that little seesaw there to actually get it to hold still. I don't know why, but you know, just the way it is. This whole segment of the game just invokes the feeling of the original God of War and all the explorations you do in one singular area. Again, the Temple of Pandora. I like it. It's a nice way to invoke the original God of War games, but still doing what the later God of War games did, and you know, imbuing more story. They just imbue more of that story towards the beginning of the game rather than the end, giving you the opportunity to test your skills and your abilities in a series of big fights that just became more manageable because we had the Oathstone of Orcos, and we just upgraded it to full so that it can actually cool down faster and we get to use it more often. This particular fight here with the Harpy Lady and the Cerberus, not difficult at all, again, because we have the Oathstone of Orcos. We do big damage to everything that thing attacks, so fights just become a whole lot easier from this point onwards. The game becomes a lot more enjoyable from this point onwards because of the Oathstone and just how powerful it is. So it's a mega-sized episode. We're going to have a lot of time just to watch, just to ramble. Might as well talk a little bit about my life. I think I mentioned before that I'm back in school at this point. If not, then I'm going to mention it now. I'm back at school at this point for my master's degree. I've already finished my first semester. I am 1/4 of the way done. I got 3 more semesters to go. Oh man, it is much more stressful than... I mean, I expected it to be stressful, but it's much more stressful than I thought it was going to be. Like, it is more stressful than any semester I've ever had at college since I started way back in like 2012. I don't know. I like it, but a year and a half is still a long time to deal with that much work. It'll be worth it, though. At least I hope it'll be worth it. I'm also teaching at that school, so I'm both student and teacher, so that's fun. I teach math. I study game design. Yeah. Not a bad way to go about living, I suppose. Regardless, fight is done with the Cerberus. As you saw, wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been, thanks to the Oathstone of Orcos, because the Oathstone of Orcos is the game changer for this whole ending segment of the game. I also forget to use it often in puzzles and stuff. Like, I just let go of this chain for no reason when I should have just used the Oathstone of Orcos to very quickly finish up this little puzzle here. But I don't, because I got so used to using the Oathstone in combat that I forget its purposes outside of combat sometimes. But it's fun. I do like how this game takes advantage of both the Oathstone and the Amulet for some interesting puzzles. Not the best that the series has ever seen, but certainly interesting and creative puzzles. I do like some of the puzzles that we have to do from this point onward as we ascend and start making our new way towards the lantern, because obviously we can't make our way to the lantern now because it's under the sea, and this game doesn't do swimming sequences aside from the grotto for some reason. So now we have to find a new way to do that. And we saw before. We will be seeing how the statue of Apollo was originally laid out, so that'll give us a clue for how to actually access the lantern now that the original path to it has been destroyed by Alecto, who is the Kraken, which is pretty cool that Alecto can just transform to that. Now we enter the most annoying segment of this video. This video is basically smooth sailing except for this part. This part is awful. You're going to see why. I hate this segment of the game. It is the worst fight. So fucking annoying. And we're not even done yet. And now I'm stuck. I'm stuck because this is another actual bug, not like episode 4. This is just like the Harpy fight, another actual bug where we can't proceed anymore. So now I am forced to have to restart again, even though I took care of all the enemies and thought I was doing good. So awesome. Thanks a lot. And one more death, 2 more deaths actually there, just to really hammer it home how much I hate this segment in Titan mode. So we're done with the deaths now for this segment of the game. This part is the worst. I hate this part so much. The fire that shoots out from the sides can hurt you. You just saw throughout that little montage a ton of satyrs, all of them in armor that we have to deal with. Even with the oath stone, it does take a little bit of time because we are in this small arena. There is this fire shooting out everywhere, and if we go too high, then we're going to have to deal with that Colossus mechanical construct fucking thing at the same time as all the satyrs. We don't want to do that. We want to make this as manageable as possible, so we want to stop the spinning thing, the spinning platform, as soon as possible when the satyrs start showing up, so that we can actually, not have to juggle both satyrs and Colossus at the same time. At the same time, you don't want to go too low or else it's going to bug out and you're not going to be able to proceed any further. So this is actually the perfect area that you want to be at, because it's not too high, it's not too low, not too low to actually bug out, excuse me there, not too low to actually bug out, not too high to spawn the Colossus mechanical construct thing, whatever it is, just high enough for you to deal with the satyrs before having to move on. Use your Oatstone of Orcos as often as possible. Use the Soul of Hades for crowd control. Oatstone of Orcos is crowd control and it's huge damage at the same time, so take advantage of it. Yeah, this fight is the worst. I hate this fight so much. And it's not even that bad. Like in my test, it's not even supposed to actually be that bad. In my test playthrough, I didn't die here at all. And then surprise, just like the Harpy fight in episode 8, I died a whole bunch of times and had to restart. By the way, that was the last restart of the game. The game does not bug out anymore, or force me into situations where I can't proceed. Now the game is going to be fine from here on out. But yeah, another big surprise for how annoying this fight was compared to how it was in the test playthrough. And I played the test playthrough on Titan just to make sure that I could do all this stuff in Titan mode and not have to go to a lower difficulty. So, surprise, I guess, fuck me, because this was actually supposed to be a really difficult fight and I didn't know that the first time, so oops. But yeah, fucking difficult fucking fight here and just really, really annoying. And long. Once you've dealt with all the satyrs, then you can go ahead and use your Oatstone to proceed upward a little bit more. Again, you don't want to go too high. You just want the one Colossus to spawn, because once the Colossus spawns, there is still going to be more enemies after that. So once the Colossus spawns, you want to get the Oatstone to stop spinning the platform as quickly as possible so that you can just deal with the Colossus by itself and nothing else. And with the Colossus, you already know what to do here. Use the electricity, the lightning of Zeus, to stun it. Use the Oatstone to do extra damage, because, again, Oatstone is fantastic, it does extra damage. This is the fire variant, so it is the annoying variant, the one with the worst desperation attack, the one with the fucking jump up in the air and slam down to try and hurt you with the hammer, but then it also does a little shockwave that hurts you anyways, similar to the fucking Juggernaut, so I don't know. Fucking annoying. Just use the electricity. Keep stunning this thing as much as possible. Each and every single Colossus mechanical construct here does enough damage, has enough health to do its desperation attack 2 times. So after a mechanical construct does its desperation attack 2 times, regardless of the variant, if it's fire, ice, or lightning, after it does its desperation attack 2 times, in this case the jumping up and slamming down with the stupid shockwave, then you know you're almost done. Because after it does 2 desperation attacks, that means it's almost dead. So, with mechanical constructs, you know you're close to killing it after it does its desperation attack for a second time. After it goes on vulnerable and does its desperation attack for a second time, then you know you're close to killing it, because at that point it's not going to have that much health left. After you kill that mechanical construct, whatever the fuck it is, then you have to deal with more satyrs. Again, they're all armored, so use the Oatstone to try and break that armor as quickly as possible. Use Soul of Hades for crowd control as opposed to lightning of Zeus for the Colossus fucking thing. Block as much as possible. If you're able to parry, go ahead, but it's more important that you just block and just let the Oatstone of Orcos do its work here. Yeah, this is one of the worst fights in the game. It's up there with the Harpy fight. It's up there with the 2 Sirens fight. A lot of people complain about a fight that's coming up later, not in this episode actually, in the next episode, but honestly, we've gone through the 3 worst fights for me. The stupid Harpy lady fight, the 2 Sirens fight, and this whole spinning platform battle here is the worst. It all sucks. So now that we're done, because I believe now we're done, there's no more enemies here, so now we're just going to speed up and just let the spinning platform take us all the way to the top. I don't know why we still have the epic battle music playing when all the enemies are dead. The way the phases go here is you have 1 batch of satyrs, then you have a Colossus mechanical construct thing, and then you have 1 more little batch of satyrs, and then this battle is over. It doesn't sound that bad, but in Titan mode, it's pretty bad. But we're done now. We're done now, and we can move on, so let's go ahead and do just that, and move on to the next chapter, because that spinning platform marked the end of chapter 21, the forearm of Apollo. And now we get a nice little view of what's left of Archimedes' magnum opus, and we begin chapter 22, the ribs of Apollo, as we continue our climb to the top of this fucked up statue to try and find a way to get to the lantern. Whew, man, that fight is the worst, but basically there is no terrible fight like that at any point. Thank goodness for that. We're all done with arguably the worst part of the game now. So now we can go back to just chill conversation, just nice chill attitudes. We don't have to deal with any crazy stuff anymore. The rest of this is going to be pretty low-key. Just low-key trek to the top of the statue to try and fix her up. Spoiler alert, we're going to be fixing her up because we have something that can, you know, move, that can decay or rebuild things, as it were. In this case, it's already decayed, so we're going to actually heal this whole statue. That's pretty cool, and not nearly as frustrating as what we just did, so we're good. We're calm. We are calm and ready to move on to greener pastures. This is pretty cool. Ascension really put a lot of focus on cinematic parkour. The parkour itself is not that in-depth at all. It's literally just holding a direction and moving. I don't think you even have to jump at any points. I mean, you can jump if you want, up ladders and stuff, but you don't really have to jump, like, almost ever. This is just, you know, cinematic way to show progress. This is back when Uncharted was super big and super popular. Back in 2013. In fact, there is trophies that are dedicated to referencing Uncharted because Santa Monica is a big PlayStation studio, and you know, this is back in the day when PlayStation was really putting out some fantastic titles using its using the companies, using the game studios that are under its umbrella, such as Santa Monica, such as Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch as well. Oops. Almost fell to our deaths there, but now we have a very easy fight with a Satyr General and just a one shielded Satyr right here, not even armored. This is a very easy fight. We got the Outstone of Orcos to make it go by even faster. I got rid of the club because you definitely want to keep that shield. Again, if you can keep the shield world weapon compared to anything else, you definitely want to do that. The shield world weapon is the best out of all 5 of them. And there goes Satyr General. Bye-bye. We're not done just yet, though, because this fight also spawns a second Satyr General. I don't know why. It's kind of pointless because we have the Outstone, and the Outstone is so powerful and decimates enemies like this in a second. I mean, it's already dead. It's already ready to die. Yeah. Yeah, nothing gets as frustrating as that spinning platform room ever does. There is one thing that a lot of people don't like that comes up, a very particularly difficult gauntlet that comes up in the next episode. It's not that difficult anymore, and we'll get into why. I mean, we already passed by all the most difficult parts of the game for me, so it's basically smooth sailing from here on out until we get to the final boss. Anyway, as I was saying, this was the era of the era that's still continuing on now, where Sony is basically having all of its all of the game studios under its umbrella spend large amounts of money to make really epic cinematic games with solid gameplay mechanics and such. Again, Sucker Punch, Santa Monica, Naughty Dog, all these big first-party companies that basically churning out the hits for PlayStation and making it so that even though the PlayStation 3 didn't do as well as the Xbox 360, it paved the path for the PlayStation 4 to do extremely well compared to the Xbox One, in my opinion, anyway, and in sales figures, basically. Regardless, we're now in Chapter 23, the Furnace. This is a big puzzle chapter with like one fight, I think, like one big fight, and then some smaller, stupider encounters that we have to do. But it's basically just a big old puzzle chapter where we deal with another troll. Look at that. It's been a while since we dealt with the troll. But at last, we get to deal with our third one in the game. pretty simple at this point. Again, Outstone of Orcos, super powerful. Use the Fire of Ares as you would, because you don't really have to do that much crowd control here. The little babies are not that... little baby Manticores not that bad to deal with, and the trolls you've already had plenty of experience dealing with up to this point of the game, based on the 2 we've encountered previously. I missed the opportunity to actually ride it, which is a shame, but as you can see with the Outstone, there it is. With the Outstone, he's already ready to die that quickly, because it's super stupid powerful. So in Titan mode, you want to take advantage of the Outstone as much as possible. And by the way, killing trolls with the QTE always guarantees you get green orbs, which is good. You get plenty of green orbs for some extra health. At this point, now we're just gotta do the stupid killing all the dragons by grabbing them a bunch with R1. Eventually, we cut off their tails, and that's it. I believe there's actually one more in this pair of eggs right here. Yeah, there's one more there. But we'll dispatch that quickly enough. Again, Soul of Hades, grabbing them with R1, simple enough. And now we move on to the actual puzzle of the chapter. Make sure to bust this down, because we're going to need this destroyed to actually solve the puzzle here. The whole thing we're doing here is trying to get this furnace working again, because right now it is stone cold. It is cold as ice right now, so we want to heat this thing up to start getting the statue operating as it should again. In order to do that, we're going to have to do a little bit of traveling around. We're going to have to ignite some sparks. We're going to have to get the fire going in here. So we start by moving this big old gear here to make ourselves a platform that takes up to the basically where Archimedes was working from. I say was, because we're about to discover his corpse in a few seconds there. I really like the inclusion of Archimedes in this game. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I remember the original God of War does this as well with another famous figure from the old Greek era. I don't remember which figure it was though in the original God of War. I mean, I'll remember once we actually get to God of War and start talking about that game specifically. But I do like how the God of War series takes advantage of famous figures and puts them into this fictional mythological tale here, and how their work actually contributes to the mythologies here. At least the fake versions of the mythologies that are viewed here. And here we have poor Archimedes, succumbed to the madness of the Furies, unfortunately. The place has been completely wrecked and destroyed by said Furies in order to protect the lantern, because the Furies hid the eyes of truth within that lantern, the only thing that can hurt them. And Archimedes tried to rebuild, but ultimately just couldn't. This is the 8th artifact, by the way, Archimedes' treatise. Let's go ahead and actually start getting this furnace to work again. Again, Outstone, fantastic not just for combat, but for basically all the remaining puzzles in this game. Go ahead and jump on down. This little bit here, this little R1 interactive thing is actually pretty difficult to read for some reason, so you have to run around a little bit just to try to get the R1 to pop up. There it is. The Furnace of Archimedes. See, it's unlit and it's cold. We're trying to heat that thing back up so we can actually, get this statue working again as intended to, not just to rebuild the statue. We want to have it working as intended so we can actually, when we get to the lantern, we can actually start doing stuff in the lantern, doing the things that we need to do to actually receive the eyes of truth. Because it's not just going to be enough to get into the lantern. We do actually have to do stuff when we get into the lantern to get the eyes of truth. Otherwise, it'll all be for nothing. So we just go ahead. Actually, I made a mistake there. You have to move that rock a little bit more inside. There we go. Now, when we spin the gear and ignite those sparks, we will get ourselves a little flame. Unfortunately, that flame is not going to last long, but it doesn't have to, because we have the Amulet of Ouroboros, aka, portable time travel for things that we aim it at. So all we have to do is put what's left. Let's put the ashes of the coal back in. Back in where we originally dragged it out of to light up this furnace and start actually doing stuff and start actually properly rebuilding the statue. Because so far we haven't done any rebuilding of the statue. We've done all the work we've done is just to get here. Now that we're actually here, now it's time to actually rebuild this and start actually getting it to work again. So now we will go ahead and grab ourselves some of that oil to really supercharge our flames. By the way, I'm saving up a lot of red orbs, as you may have seen, because I want to upgrade the blades of chaos. I'm not going to be able to upgrade everything again because this is Titan mode, and you're not going to be able to upgrade all the things in one Titan mode playthrough as opposed to lower difficulty playthroughs. But I do want to upgrade the blades of chaos to their fullest, not just because they look awesome fully upgraded with the red cracks all over the place, but you know, to actually be able to output the most damage possible and have all the combos and stuff. Not that I use all the combos, but being able to output the most damage possible is super useful for the end game. Regardless, the furnace is now working again, so we can start actually, you know, doing stuff, like real stuff. But first, another fight. This is going to be a Medusa and the very annoying furnace slingers. This is not a difficult section. I do die once here because the furnace slingers are just... They're just the worst, these stupid slinging satyrs. So that's another death right there. Those stupid slinging satyrs are just the absolute worst. Ultimately, not nearly as bad as the Battle of the Spinning Room, but they are annoying, and they do appear a few more times now between this point and the end of the game. So be wary, be ready to block, because you can't block them. They're just so fast, and they do so much damage. It's really annoying. If you are able to stun any of them, go ahead, ram them. Maybe get the Medusa's glare focused on one of the satyrs instead, so they can be turned to stone as opposed to you. And take advantage of the Outstone. Again, these battles would normally take a very, very long time. It would be much more annoying previously in the game without the Outstone, but now that you have it, now you can go ahead and really do some real damage here. The Outstone and the Amulet really, together, really change the game up a little bit. And really make things more manageable for you. As you can see, the Medusa's already dead. Normally, taking down the Medusa would take minutes, like literal minutes in Titan mode, but with the Outstone, it takes less than one to really do enough damage to get to this point of the fight. So overall, I approve of the Outstone a lot. It is excellent. I mentioned earlier that I teach. This would actually be my third semester being a professor now in math, because I got a minor in math, so I might as well use it for something. My third semester, my first semester was actually really crazy, since that was the semester that the pandemic officially started. So I only really had half a semester of actually being a professor, like a regular professor in a classroom and stuff, before, you know, things changed drastically and had to move everything online. Thankfully, a lot of the class that I had made was already designed for online work. Like, there was already a lot of material online for students and stuff, so it wasn't that difficult to fully convert to full online, but it was still definitely a transition. Yeah. And then, of course, the next two semesters are fully online as well. The previous semester was fully online, and the semester that we're at now is also fully online. It is what it is. We do the best with what we can, and under difficult circumstances. Thankfully, at the time of recording this, it seems that there is now finally light at the end of the tunnel. So that's exciting. I don't know how soon it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen eventually. Things will go back to normal, and we will be able to move forward again. For now, though, here we are with God of War. With God of War, I picked it to be my next Let's Play because, well, I just wanted something kind of familiar again. Like something familiar with the kind of games I've already been playing. I know Mega Man is not the same thing as God of War, like at all, but in some ways it is. They're both linear games. There's not that much exploring off the beaten path. I would not do well Let's Playing an open world game, like, at all. Open world games, for me, are... You would not like a Let's Play an open world game for me. That's why I don't ever plan on doing, like, big open world games for this channel. It's going to be difficult once we do get to the PlayStation 4 God of War, how I'm going to handle those, because those are basically kind of open world games. I don't do well with open world games at all in terms of Let's Playing purposes, because I do all the side stuff. Like, all of the side stuff, I do it. And I do it before any of the main story stuff, because that's just how I roll. That's just the kind of gamer I am when it comes to open world games. Like right now I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm not that far in the story at all, because I'm just doing a whole bunch of exploration, just a whole bunch of filling in the map and doing all the question marks and stuff. Doing a Let's Play of an open world game is going to be a challenge for me. It's going to be very different from something like the Greek mythology era God of Wars, or the Mega Man games, or the X games, which I'll be doing eventually, and the Zero games and stuff like that, because open world games are a whole different beast to me and how I handle them. So it's gonna be a challenge. It's gonna be an interesting little challenge to try to pace myself in an open world game, because that's really what it comes down to, I think. To do an open world game, it's going to be pacing myself, doing some side stuff, but also doing some open world stuff, but also doing some story stuff, because obviously I want to show off all the stuff in PS4 God of War, but I don't want to just front load a whole bunch of side content and not focus on the main story at all. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to route out how to actually do that properly. I'm excited to get to that, though. And start Let's Playing, really modern games, like games that came out a year or two ago, that kind of thing. That kind of thing. I'm really excited to start doing Let's Plays for that, of those super recent kind of games. Because even this is, almost 8 years ago now. Regardless, we now have ourselves a little bit of a set piece fight here. A bunch of satyrs, all of them unarmored. All you have to do is just grab them, toss them into the flames that are slowly but surely moving towards the center. So Kratos is going to have less and less room to maneuver. There we go, I can speak words. Less and less room to maneuver, so just keep tossing satyrs. If they get to be too much for you, you should have magic at this point, so use the Fire of Ares to just do some crowd control. They're all unarmored, so just grab them and toss them. Don't bother with the Soul of Hades, because Soul of Hades is good for crowd control, but it's also good for it's better for crowd control where you have space to actually maneuver. So definitely make sure that you use Fire of Ares in case there get to be too many, so you can just knock them away with the magic, and just keep grabbing and throwing them into the fire, as you saw me do for a little bit there. This is a short little platforming section. We just need to navigate our way to the other side. Not difficult at all. For this portion here, you are going to have to stand here in the middle of this moving cylinder. So be careful there. Don't fall off. After a few seconds, you'll be fine. And then just swing on over to chapter 24, The Shoulder of Apollo. Another super short chapter because this chapter just consists of one big fight. One big fight, one cutscene, and then one little special slip and slide that we do. Little Greek mythology slip and slide that we do. I don't do well this first time. This is the last time I die in this video, this encounter right here. Because of the slingers. They are the worst. They can overwhelm you very easily. As you can see, they do a lot of damage too in Titan mode. Very annoying to deal with, but that is the last time I die in this segment of the game, this video. What you want to do is just try to corral them together using Soul of Hades, Oathstone of Orcos, Amulet of Ouroboros, all the things you do for crowd control, just to use them here. Make sure you have a shield, so you can get some extra invincibility frames if that becomes necessary. A lot of these satyrs are unarmed, so you can go ahead and just use R1 to grab them and throw them. You can either throw them at the juggernauts, because there's going to be more than one juggernaut, by the way, or you can just throw them off of the arena. Sometimes the invisible walls prevent that from happening, but sometimes they don't, so I don't recommend always trying for throwing them off of the arena, but, you know, sometimes it might work, so it doesn't hurt to try. Be careful, because now you have to deal with two of these Elephantars here. Just as annoying as they were back in the beginning, but now you have plenty of more toys to play. Now you have plenty more toys to use against them, as opposed to just your blades from the very beginning. It's a close one, but this should be pretty manageable. Time your magic so that you try to hit as many enemies as possible using the fire barriers. It has a pretty big area of effect, so I wouldn't have to worry that much, but, you know, be a little careful. Try to time out when you actually use that magic. There are chests in the arena, and technically, if you are able to, you could open them to get yourself some extra health or extra magic in the middle of the fight, but these Elephantars just make that a no-go, just make that an impossible thing to try and achieve here, so I wouldn't bother. Now, you may notice that there are a lot of shields that you get here. There's a lot of world weapons to use here. A lot of shields, some slings, plenty of stuff to use. One of the strategies I would recommend is try to make sure there's always at least one shield in the arena somewhere, because that way, if you're really in a pinch and really need something to guarantee a stun or guarantee some damage on the juggernauts or on a big crowd of satyrs, you can just toss one of your shields using L1 circle. That guarantees a stun on the Elephantars. That does a lot of damage to satyrs. Yeah. Definitely make sure there's at least one shield. There's actually like 3 shields in the arena right now. So if I do get into a pinch, I can't just start tossing shields to guarantee some stuns. Definitely do that. This fight is difficult because of the sheer amount of satyrs and the fact that there are 2 Elephantars. But by this point in the game, you have all the materials necessary to make this easier for yourself. You have the amulet, you should have an almost fully powered up Blades of Chaos, you have Soul of Hades for crowd control, you have Fire of Ares for big damage, you have Oathstone of Orcos for big damage and crowd control, you have world weapons to stun juggernauts and big crowds of enemies with. Yeah. And as you can see, another juggernaut has joined the fight. That's great. And I'm almost dead, so I'm actually really nervous right here. But I don't die again. Look at that. The stupid iframes guaranteed that I didn't get hurt there somehow. And yeah, as you can see, you toss a shield. It guarantees a stun on the juggernauts, so that should help you out. And this arena is small enough that camera thing that happens with Ascension, wherein if enemies are far enough off camera, they don't attack you. That doesn't happen in this arena because it is small enough that no matter what, the enemies are close enough to start attacking you. So it is a difficult battle. It's a difficult battle, but you should have all the materials necessary to handle it at this point. I believe I threw that shield because there is one more world weapon somewhere that I can pick up, so that I can still have a shield later. I think so. Or not. Doesn't matter, really, because we're done with the fight now. There's still going to be more difficult fights to come, but this particular difficult fight is now over and done with. And again, manageable, because at this point we have so many pieces of gear and and extra strength to actually utilize against once very, very difficult enemy. Oh, no, there was a shield there. I didn't see it. To utilize against very, very difficult enemies. So, yeah. That's basically it for this chapter. We're already about to move on. But first, a cutscene wherein Kratos is going to begin repairing this statue. Enjoy! Little chests popped in there. All right. We're now in the process of repairing the statue. I don't know how the Furies haven't found us by this point. I mean, Alecto was pretty insistent that, you know, they find us, but it's pretty obvious where we are considering how the Amulet of Ouroboros works. Whatever. We now have enough red orbs to fully upgrade the Blades of Chaos to their max level, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Slowly but surely, the blood pours in, and there it is. Now it's fully upgraded. We now have double rage. We do more damage. That's pretty cool. Pretty good to have for the rest of this game. I double checked to make sure that that chest didn't respawn there, because those 3 chests appeared from up there, so, you know, I wanted to make sure that nothing else happened. Whatever. That note said that I believe there is a trophy for doing the slide without dying. There is a trophy for doing this slide without dying. So if you can do this whole little slide section here without dying at all, that's a free trophy for you. That's a nice free little trophy for you, just doing all this without dying. And this is how you do it without dying. Regardless, it's going to be obvious later on why Megara and Tisiphone haven't just pounced upon us so quickly once we started repairing the statue, because again, it's pretty obvious where we are based on how the Amulet of Ouroboros works. Whatever, though. We'll deal with them when we have to. For now, welcome to Chapter 25? Yeah, Chapter 25. The Furnace Part 2. We're back in the furnace. Yeah. I mean, not much to say. We're back in the furnace again. Now that we started repairing the statue, we can actually use the furnace to its fullest extent and fullest ability, by which I mean that we can actually use this gear not just to move a platform, but also to start moving the statue itself and start actually doing more stuff with the statue, as you'll see. And so the whole point of the furnace was to start lifting the lantern closer and closer to the hand of Apollo. And now we get an interesting little fight sequence wherein we have to continue powering that flame in the center. We have to keep feeding that flame in order to keep rising the platform higher and higher towards the top of the statue. You do this by grabbing enemies and throwing them into the fire. Kratos, by the way, when he grabs human-sized enemies like satyrs, he can throw them early by pressing circle, just earlier. Like, you can hold on to them for as long as you want to do additional damage, maybe ram them into a wall to instantly kill them. But if you just want to throw them immediately, you can do that just by pressing the circle button as soon as you grab an enemy. Regardless, these satyrs are armored, so you can't just grab them. You do have to stun them somehow, or hurt them enough so that the armor comes off of them. Regardless of how you do it, just find some way to keep throwing them into the fire. Some hounds will be appearing occasionally as well, and the hounds are easier to grab and throw because you don't have to actually get rid of their armor or stun them in order to actually start throwing them. So I recommend focusing on hounds when you can to try and end this sequence as soon as possible. The key to the sequence, this sequence is infinite, by the way, so the key to the sequence is just throwing enemies into the fire as quickly as possible to rise up to the top as quickly as possible without having to deal with deal with too many enemies in the process. And then you just do that by just throwing them as quickly as possible into the flames. This is, by the way, as I mentioned, another infinite spawn point. I believe it's the last one in the game. So this is another point where you can take advantage of this and of this infinite spawn point and use the Ice of Poseidon if you level that up enough to freeze enemies and destroy them, thus giving you plenty of red orbs to play with if you were hurting for red orbs. So that's cool. You can do this both in the first segment of using this furnace platform to rise up, or you can do it in the second segment, because we're only halfway done with this furnace segment, by the way. That was the first half. Now we're going to do the second half right now. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Just keep throwing enemies into the flame to keep feeding the flame, and eventually you'll make it to the top. Any leftover enemies that haven't died, you will have to deal with once you get to a rest point. This, by the way, is the 9th artifact. This is the Statue Worker's Idol. But a pretty self-explanatory, straightforward segment here. Very nice, though. I do enjoy it, and it's not nearly as difficult as that stupid spinning platform was. Again, I didn't expect that stupid spinning platform room to be as difficult as it was, but go figure, I guess. Okay, that's the end of the first half of the actual ascent up to the top of the Statue of Apollo. Now we start the second half. Again, same gimmick as before. Keep tossing enemies into the fire to feed the flames. This time you are going to have to deal with Colossus. So while this segment is also an infinite spawn point for enemies, it's not as ideal as the first half of this segment, because now you have to deal with these stupid Colossus. And it's the fire variant again, the worst variant of them all. And you also have to deal with the fact that some of the that two of the squares of this arena are going to be on fire and will hurt you for a lot of damage if you actually run into those. And if you throw enemies into them, it does kill them, I believe. But obviously, it doesn't feed the center flame. It doesn't help in rising the platform up to get you to the top. So be careful. Just focus on throwing enemies into the fire. When a Colossus does show up, I would recommend you just focus on getting rid of the Colossus, because the Colossus can be very annoying. Just focus on tossing enemies into the fire as quickly as possible. Eventually, you will make it to the top and be able to end this segment once and for all. Thankfully, thanks to the Eldstone of Workers, I already had 2 enemies there ready to go to toss into the fire to get a head start on getting to the very top. Because eventually more Colossus are going to show up, and you really do want to be done or close to done with throwing enemies before another one shows up, and you have to start focusing on that one again. I believe we're almost done, though. We just have like 1 or 2 more enemies that we have to throw in there, and then we're at the top, and then we can just deal with cleanup. And by cleanup, I mean getting rid of any enemies that haven't died yet. Again, those fire variants of the Colossus are the worst variants of them all. I hate them so much. They have the most annoying attacks. They have the worst desperation attack to deal with. Not a fan of the fire variant of the Colossus, whereas the ice and electricity variant are much easier to deal with. I believe now we're done. Unfortunately, the Colossus didn't fall like I was hoping it would, so now we're gonna have to... Now we're just gonna have to finish it off. Thankfully, we have all the gear necessary to actually do that. I don't think the game expected us to actually still have enemies to deal with, though, because it just stopped the music. It just stopped all the music, and it's kind of glitchy right now because, again, I don't think the game expected for you to still have to be dealing with enemies at this point. It kind of expected us to be all done, but here we go. And dead.
I need no gifts from Olympus.
Again, the game did not expect us to still be fighting and doing stuff there because T-pose. Oh, man. Again, I really do like Ascension, but it is the most... not as well crafted as the other mainline titles, or even the other two PSP titles, aka the two spin-off titles, and certainly not like the PS4 title. Again, Ascension is great though. It's really good, and I heard it runs much better on PS4 and PS5. So, and I've seen videos of it running on PS4 and PS5, and I've seen just how good it runs there. Again, this is on a PlayStation 3. A PlayStation 3, super slim, but a PlayStation 3 nonetheless. Would have been on my original PlayStation 3, but that PlayStation 3 died a long time ago, unfortunately. Oh well. Just popped in again. All right. Welcome to Chapter 26, Eyes of Apollo. This chapter is also short. This is just going to be a big old fight and a pretty simple puzzle, and that's it. And then kind of a mini-boss. And I say kind of a mini-boss because this kind of leads into my whole... is an enemy that we fought before actually considered a boss or a mini-boss? We'll get into that when we actually encounter it. For now, though, just move that platform off of that crystal, and we can go ahead and begin the fight for the chapter, which is a big multi-phase fight dealing with plenty of smaller mythical creatures, shades of Hades right here. Sirens come to play later, Satyr generals also. Pretty big fight, not the worst, but definitely not easy. Manageable, though, thanks again to the Oathstone of Orgos. The fight begins with just a whole bunch of the Shades of Hades, the clones that the original Shade can actually summon. The OG Shades, the Shades that are not just blue illusion reflections of the original Shade, doesn't show up immediately for some reason. It never does in this fight. You're just going to have to kill enough of these blue copies for the OG to actually start showing up and joining in the fight. See, now the original one shows up and actually starts fighting you, and also races up more copies because of course it does. Same strategies as before. Whenever it burrows into the ground and starts moving around to try and attack you and to be invincible in general because it can. Use R1 to grab it and force it out of the ground, otherwise you won't be able to damage it at all. So there we go. Now we forced it out of the ground, we can do some damage. You can use the Amulet of Ouroboros to slow it down. You can use the Oathstone to do big damage to it, of course. We have double rage now, so it's even easier to build up our rage meter, especially not just because we have double rage meter, but because we're using the Fire of Ares. Again, Fire of Ares fills up your rage meter faster than all the other elements. It fills it up faster than using the lightning, than using the Soul of Hades, than using the Ice of Poseidon. If you want to fill up your rage fast and get to your more powerful attacks, definitely be using the Fire of Ares. After dealing with that OG Shade of Hades, now we can deal with the Satyr General. Pretty self-explanatory at this point, but of course another Shade is going to join in on the fighting, so be careful with that. I shouldn't have rolled away to do that magic. That was a mistake. I should have stayed closer so I can hit every single one of them. Thankfully, though, we have the Oat Stone to make up for any mistakes that I make, so that's cool. That's it for the Satyr General. Again, the Oat Stone makes short work of all enemies. I actually messed up the QTE, but it doesn't matter because just throwing that world weapon that I had is enough to weaken it again to do the QTE again. Yeah, the Oat Stone just makes short work of all the enemies in this game. It's incredible how powerful it is. And you should definitely be using it all the time after you get it. No excuse to not use it. Use it all the time. Just no hesitation, no embarrassment. Use it all the time. It's excellent. It does so much damage. So far, the fight's not that exciting. I do something pretty smart here that I could have also done during the Shoulder of Apollo battle because there were chests in that arena as well, and it was a pretty close call. But I used the amulet to freeze the one and only Satyr General here, just so I can have enough time to open the chest and comfortably refill all my health, because we're actually about to come up to the difficult part of this fight. The fight's not over yet. We still have a little bit more to deal with, and it's the most annoying part because now I believe we need to deal with. Here we go, 2 more sirens, just like back in episode 8. However, this time we have the Oat Stone, this time we have magic to back us up. They're still annoying, they can still kill you pretty quickly, but it is much more manageable now than it was back in episode 8, when normally the people that get into that encounter without any magic. They definitely don't have the Oat Stone. Sometimes the Amulet of Orbs is not powered up all the way. This encounter at this point of the game should be much easier compared to that one. Even though in this one they actually throw another shade of Hades at you to give you even more to deal with. But at this point, with your magic, with the Oat Stone, should not take that much to finish this off. And in fact, it didn't. Both of the sirens are gone. Now we just have to deal with the shade itself. Although I do mess up here. I do mess up a little bit in the blocking here, and they almost kill me again, and that was pretty scary. Because I was pretty smart about healing before this particular final phase of the fight, and it still almost killed me anyway for it, so very annoying. Very annoying and kind of scary, but ultimately did not mean the end of me. And a big part of that is thanks to the Oat Stone. Oat Stone of Orcos is fantastic. Use it at every possible opportunity. And now we have ourselves a simple puzzle to wrap up this chapter. Again, very short chapter, just one fight, one puzzle, and then we're basically done. Puzzle is pretty simple. We have to find a way to get the crystal lowered down enough to reflect the laser into both of the eyes. Because the crystal reflects the laser in such a way that it would hit both of the eyes, but before it was too high up. Now we have to get it to the proper level to actually hit both eyes. And we can do that thanks to the extremely useful Oat Stone of Orcos. Not just useful in combat, useful in basically every puzzle. There's 2 more white chests for us up here. Get ourselves plenty of red orbs, though at this point we don't really need red orbs anymore. Not that we have that many to work with, because again, Titan mode. I'm collecting them though, just to show you where they are. It's going to be part of the collectibles guide at the end of this playthrough, so no harm in actually showing where they are. At this point, after you use your Oat Stone copy, now you want to get this this little holding chamber here, so that when we do lower the crystal, we can get rid of our We get rid of our Oat Stone copy, and we're able to hold the laser in place and thus solve the puzzle and thus move on to the end of this video. The last little portion here, we have ourselves a long climb. We've actually been down this hallway before. This is actually where we fought some of Megaro's parasites, but the hallway was on its side, so it actually felt pretty different. It's pretty cool how we get to re-explore all this stuff in different contexts. Again, one of the great things about God of War. And welcome to a mini-boss. Again, I don't know if the Manticore is a boss or a mini-boss, because the game treats it here as a mini-boss as opposed to an actual boss. This is phase 2 of the Manticore from way back in Chapter 9, Ice Caverns. That was back in Episode 3, I think. I speed up here because it's the exact same fight as it was before. There's nothing different about this at all. Exactly the same thing. Manticore does the exact same attacks. It even spits out the babies eventually to try and get some reinforcements to deal with you. Nothing special, nothing different about this fight at all. Just the exact same thing that it was before. Yeah. I mean, what is there to say? It's the exact same thing, but it's treated as a mini-boss now because I guess you have so much gear and stuff to play with. There's the babies. We use some magic. I should have used the Oathstone more because, again, always be using that Oathstone. But I didn't. Still, ultimately, not that difficult because the Manticore is just not that bad. And we're all done with it already, so. With that, we have now moved on to the final part of the game, the end game, the beginning of the end game, I should say, the beginning of the end. So next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will be exploring the Lantern of Delos. We finally made it. Now we have to get the Eyes of Truth. Next time, hope to see you then on more Let's Play God of War Ascension. Thank you so much for watching this mega-sized episode. Bye-bye.